Hey guys, and welcome to this episode of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia, and I'm coming to you from Germany. Today is Sunday, the 11th of November 2018, and I am so glad that you're joining me today to talk about some knitting. Welcome back if you are a returning viewer, and thank you so much if you are a new viewer, because maybe trying this podcast for the very first time. I really appreciate that. What I constantly forget to do is to reintroduce myself. I want to do that every couple of weeks or months, just so you know who you're talking to. So, a very quick rundown. Like I said, my name is Julia. I live in Germany. I live in Munich, which is in the south of Germany, with my boyfriend, who I'm marrying in March. His name is Kai. If you've been a long-term viewer of the podcast, you will know about him because he is very knitworthy and opinionated about yarn and socks especially. So yeah, we live here in Munich in our little apartment, which we love. I'm recording this from my office/craft room. I work a lot from home when I'm not traveling, so this is actually where I spend most of my days. We both work full-time, and when I'm not working, I'm usually knitting or buying yarn because those are my two favorite things. I started knitting I always forget, I think 5 years ago, although I learned as a child, as so many of us do or did. I started knitting socks. I still love socks, even though this year I'm somewhat more obsessed with garments, especially colorwork sweaters, so that's what I've been knitting lately. I also spin. I have a Bliss spinning wheel, which doesn't get enough attention ever since I started working. So basically since in the last 2 years, because I just don't have enough time and I want to focus my time more on knitting than on spinning. But I do love spinning yarn nonetheless. I used to sew, but I was never very good at it, and my sewing machine is currently living in the basement, which is very sad, I know, but oh well. Yeah, I think that's maybe, hopefully, somewhat interesting to you if you're new. The best place to follow me besides this podcast is usually on Instagram, where you can find me as the Happy Knitting Podcast. That's where I post the most about what's going on in my life, what we're doing, and so on. And in terms of show notes, I don't do show notes for this podcast, but all of the details about the projects, which is, I assume, what you're most interested in, if you need show notes, like yarns, needle sizes, patterns, all of that can be found in my project pages on Ravelry. So my name on Ravelry is Wuepfi. That is spelled Wuepfi. And you can usually find all that information there. I really try to keep my information up there all the time so you can find everything. So let's do some actual knitting. Today I'll talk about some finished objects, works in progress, a work from the past, so to speak, and a tiny bit of acquisition, and then we'll see if there's anything to talk about in terms of life in general. We'll see how it goes. I had a bit of a cold yesterday. I was feeling quite run down, but I feel much better, except my voice is not great. Or it's kind of hurting to speak. That's why I'm not sure how long this podcast is going to be. We just had brunch with a friend, which was really lovely, but it was in a really noisy cafe, so I've been basically shouting for 2 hours. So yeah, let's have some coffee. Also brought some water, so I think that should tide us over for the podcast. And yes, I'm using a Christmas mug, but then again, I actually use these Christmas mugs all year round because I think they're adorable. So now that makes sense, but I did use them in August as well. So, finished objects. Focus. I finished my Spunny mittens, or I should say my modified Spunny mittens. The pattern is a pattern by Ellie of Scandia. And they are actually full-on mittens, but I turned them into, what are they called? Fingerless mitts, because I just find them more wearable and useful for everyday life, for me at least. So the pattern by Ellie, like I said, it basically has this star motif twice and then kind of goes into the decreases, but I just knit the first star and then did ribbing. I mirrored the ribbing that I did for the bottom of the mitten, and you're supposed to do like just like a gray stripe and then go back to the yellow, but I wanted to do more like a solid color block. So if you look at the original pattern, you can very easily see what I did. Like I said, I did a 2x2 rib at the top, and I also didn't knit the thumb. I just knit ribbing for the thumb, and I just chose gray for this one just to mix it up a little. And yeah, that's where we are with those. They're done. They fit really, really well, and you can see they go quite high, which I really like, because then you can just curl your fingers in and it's really, really warm. Or you can just work it like this, and of course you could always turn down the brim and they look really nice like that as well if you need more space to move around. So I find these kind of mittens super handy, and the yarn that I use for this is Fenul Garn. This is Rauma Fenul Garn. It's supposed to be a fingering weight, although I find it a little bit thicker, just the way that it knits up. It's not quite a DK weight gauge, but it's not far off either. So I went down a needle size for these, which worked out perfectly. They might be my best fitting colorwork mittens I have ever done, I think. And this yarn softened up so much while after blocking. I'll try to give you a close-up. They were really nice to start with, but felt quite rustic, in lack of a better word. But just blocking these just made the yarn bloom and even out, and it is really stunning. I really love this yarn. I got this on my recent trip to Oslo in Norway. And now that I've knit a full pair of mittens out of it and actually blocked them, so I know what the yarn turns out like, I want to cast on my sweaters. My sweater quantities is so bad because I love this yarn. Also because these are out of a very woolly yarn, and obviously basically a double layer because of the floats on the back. These are crazy warm. I wore them yesterday and we have really nice autumnal weather here. It's not that cold. And they were actually way too warm, which is nice. I really like a cozy pair of mittens, so they will be fantastic for when winter does arrive. So yeah, they're done. I love them, and I'm very happy with my first Norwegian yarn cast on. That is also the only finished object for this week, so I'll go straight into works in progress. Actually, no. One thing I forgot to talk about, which is actually, it makes sense at this point to talk about it. A couple of you guys said that last week I told you about the new pattern that I released, which is the tea and ice cream socks. This is them if you're interested. And first of all, thank you to everyone who bought the pattern. I released it the same time I released the podcast episode last weekend, and the response has been overwhelmingly positive, and I just can't thank you enough for supporting this little design, what do I want to call it? It's not a design career. Just for supporting my designs. I really, really appreciate that, and I was blown away by the positive response to the pattern. So thank you so much to everyone who has maybe bought the pattern, maybe queued the pattern. I actually gave a couple more away. I just looked at who had queued it and decided in the sort of realms of getting your yarn wishes granted and all those things that are floating around Instagram, I might give out this pattern to a couple of people who maybe hadn't had the chance to get it but wanted it, so that was really fun. But yeah, just a huge thank you to you guys. And when talking about this pattern last week, I asked you guys if you wanted a knit along for it, and a couple of you said yes. So we are running a tea and ice cream sock knit along. It will run until the middle of December, so December 15th. And as for all of my design knit-alongs, this will be a very, very, very casual one, which means that you don't have to actually finish. We will just have a chatter thread, and you can post your yarn choices, your progress, your finished objects, everything just in there. A couple of people have posted already, which is really fun. Just join in. I haven't really figured out prizes yet, so if you are a maker and you would like to donate a prize, please do get in touch. But otherwise, we'll figure something out, and there will be prizes. And most of all, I'm just so excited to see the pattern that I designed out in the wild, knitting or being knitted in your color choices. So feel free to join in if you want to. You can always just cast on, and don't worry about finishing them, because guess what? I still haven't finished mine. So this is perfect. Now I can use the knit along as an excuse to knit along with you guys, because I really wanted to finish these. But I've had a really stressful week. Not a bad week, but a stressful one. And I just needed plain vanilla knitting. Also, I've been doing a lot of gift knitting, so I'm still not done. But I am working on it. So how was that for a perfect transition into WIPs? I'm still working on the second sock, as you can see here. I think I'm about one repeat away from where I will put the heel later. The yarn I should mention is by Nadine of She Bought Garne. She's a German indie dyer. Here you can see the pattern possibly better than on the blocker. And the colorway is Pfirsichblüte, which is always coming across a little bit too pastel on the podcast. I don't know why my camera doesn't like to focus on this yarn. But yeah, it's really nice. I'm still working on it, and hopefully at some point I'll have the time to really dedicate myself to this and get it off the needles. So that is my first work in progress. There are a couple of works in progress that I didn't work on. Most importantly, my Emma yoke sweater I haven't touched, so I'm not showing that to you. I've also been just working a tiny bit on my socks that I have on DPNs. In this beautiful needle cozy by a friend of mine are these socks that were my Norway travel socks, so I cast them on for the airplane on DPNs, which I haven't done in ages. This is just a plain vanilla sock with a Gerda Stitch Fish Lips Kiss heel. I actually really like this yarn. Like I said, they haven't been the most interesting thing to knit on. I don't really know if I want to gift these or not. I'm just a little bit undecided, which is why I haven't really worked on it. The yarn is by Lana Grossa, Meilenweit, in their colorway 5408. And I googled these and I found out that these are in the Burlington range, whatever that means. So I'm working away on these. I think I had just turned the heel when I last showed them to you, so haven't really made any progress, but oh well. Really, a couple of my WIPs, especially this one and my other sock WIP, I'm just not really feeling at the moment. So I will get them done eventually, but I don't want to stress myself out too much, because after all, it is supposed to be fun. So yeah. And the sun is coming in. Right now the lighting is really good, but I have a feeling it might change eventually, so we'll see how far we get with that. Next up, excitingly, I have 2 new cast-ons. First of all, while we're already talking about socks, I just needed a happy cast-on, something new to cast on. I had a long week, like I said, and on Friday I wasn't feeling particularly great, so I decided to finish work a little bit early, which I never do, and that was really, really great. And I just wanted to cast on something fun, and there was this skein of sock yarn that I had been wanting to cast on for ages, so I decided to go ahead. And you guys, isn't this the most amazing self-striping yarn ever? I just love this. So this yarn is yarn that my lovely friend Patty got for me at, I think, Stitches West? I think. This is by Mustache Yarn, who I think used to have different tags. These look new to me. And I asked her if she could get me 1 skein of the Kama Sutra colorway, because that is just the best colorway that I've ever seen, essentially. I think it's one of her really, really popular ones as well. And it's a really long self-striper, and the colors are just incredible. So it actually, as you can see, maybe the color repeat goes from where I started down here. Now I'm back at the green, so that's a really, really long color repeat. I don't even think I will have the entirety of the second color repeat in the sock. And this is just pure amazingness. I just love this sock to death. It flew off my needles. I love Stacy's. I think her name is Stacy. I'm sorry, if you're the dyer of Mustache Yarn and you're watching this, which I don't think you would be, I'm really sorry if I messed up the name. Let's see. Mustache Sheep. It doesn't say. Oh well. Anyways, she's super talented, and just look at these stripes. They're just perfect. So as you can see, I'm doing a plain vanilla sock. I did a 2x2 rib, and I will do cut-in heels. So I will just knit a tube for however long I feel like it, and then I like to always knit my self-strapping socks relatively long because the yarn is really fancy, and yeah. And it came in 2 matching skeins, so I have 2 cakes of yarn. I could have knit these 2 at a time, but I didn't want to. But that means that if I start the second cake from the same point, from the outside, I will have perfectly matching socks. So that is very, very exciting, and I think I will actually use this yarn to do the heels as well. So it'll be at a different point in the color repeat, which will make the Afterthought heel pop even more. And yeah, I couldn't love these anymore. I'm in love with these. So yeah, that's what I've been working on. I'm knitting these as all of my socks on 64 stitches with 2.25mm needles. And then, very, very proudly, I am happy to say I cast on a major project that I needed to cast on. And spoiler, if you are one of my sisters, please stop watching because you don't want to see this. Alright, spoilers aside, or warnings aside, you know, I'm sure that I am planning to knit pavement sweaters for both of my sisters for Christmas. I already finished the first one, like in August, and then I lost steam and I was like, oh, there's so much time until Christmas. And now I was like, I really need to knit that sweater. I really want to knit all the Norwegian yarn and all the colorwork sweaters, but really I need to get my butt moving and cast on that almost swore there, that stupid second sweater. And guess what? I did. And guess what? It's going really, really fast. So I'm using the same yarn that I used for the first one, which is a Baby Merino Sport Weight by Fair Alpaca. This is a very ecologically and fair produced yarn. You can kind of buy it in bulk, which is why it is relatively affordable. While you get a really good quality yarn. It is a superwash, so for me it's very, very, very soft. For me personally, I think if I were knitting for myself, I would prefer a slightly more rustic yarn. But if you like soft yarns, if you're maybe doing baby knits, this is a great yarn. The label isn't super helpful, to be honest. I can show it to you, but it doesn't really say a whole bunch. Maybe, hang on. Yeah, I think the English version of that is fairwool.com, and then in Germany it is called Fair Alpaca. So this is the yarn that I'm using. I have 300 grams of sport weight yarn in this beautiful navy, which I actually love. The first one I knit, you may remember if you watched back then, was in a sort of dark red, maybe even burgundy, and this one I really, really love. So, what have I done? It is a top-down sweater by Vera Välimäki called the Pavement Sweater. And I cast on, look you guys, I knit almost half a sweater in a week. So I cast on from the top. I'm knitting the size small, which I think should fit my sister perfectly. And I have knit about half of the body, which is kind of scrunched up here on the needles. I basically just worked through the first 2 50-gram balls of yarn, and then decided to start working the sleeves first, just because I have 2 sweaters where I'm kind of on stockinette body island, and I needed a change. So I cast on one of the sleeves yesterday. I'm going to finish the sleeves, which are going to be 3/4 length. At least one, maybe I'll even finish both of the sleeves first, and then I will go back to the body, finish the body, and then this thing will be done. And I'm actually really happy with this progress. Because I've knit the sweater before twice, and once of those times was with this exact yarn, I didn't have to swatch. I could just cast on and go, and it was super relaxing, kind of like sock knitting. And especially because it's been kind of stressful, this has been perfect TV knitting, just going round and round and round and round. And I'm really, really happy with the progress that I'm making on this. So I'm very proud of that. I'm using 4mm needles, which is a US size 8. Not alternating skeins, because those skeins were perfectly matched, so that'll be fine. And I really actually like this color. I kind of want to keep it for myself because I need a navy sweater. So I think my sister will love it. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Pavement Sweater by Vera Välimäki. And like I said, this is the third one I'm knitting. The first one I did for myself in a faded version. Turned out kind of too small, so I'm not really wearing it a lot. And now I'm giving 2 away. And I really want to knit a 4th one for myself that fits. But then again, might be sick of pavements after this. I'm not quite sure. We'll see how it goes. So far it's going really well. And yeah, very proud of my progress there. Sorry, my hair is everywhere today. And also I feel like my podcasting setup is kind of strange today. I'm not sure what's going on. Another thing that I found out today, which I thought was just so cute, I want to tell you about, is the story about Kai's scarf. So, I think right around when I started this podcast, if not just before that, I really got into knitting, and I bought some yarn ages ago to knit Kai a scarf. So this was about 3 years ago, I think. I knit him this scarf. Quite honestly, I was going to look up the name of the scarf, but I forgot. But you can find it in my project pages. And maybe if I remember, I'll look it up and put it on the screen. We'll see how that goes. But like I said, everything is on Ravelry. So quite a few years ago, I knit him this scarf. And Kai is a typical man in the sense that he needs one hat and he needs one scarf. And why would he need a second one? Because he has one, right? That's how lots of the men in my life at least think. So he has this one scarf and he loves it. And he wears it pretty much every day in winter. He only ever wears this one scarf. And then the other day, I think they had like a work function and he left it there. And somehow, someone posted about the scarf in their company intranet or whatever, and he picked it back up. And apparently everyone really loved his scarf. And now they're all asking for more scarves. Apparently, like, I only found out about this today. I don't know why he didn't tell me that, because I thought that was a really, really nice compliment. But his co-workers are like, I want a red one of these, and I want a yellow one, and so on. So I'm not going to knit them for them. I think they're not really expecting that. But I just thought that was so sweet. And this pattern, to be honest, is a knit and purl texture. And it was actually quite annoying to knit, because it's not really like color's going crazy. It's not really like an intuitive pattern. But considering how long he's been wearing this, it has been so absolutely worth it. So the yarn that I used was, I think, a Lana Grossa Cool Wool commercial yarn. And it held up really, really amazingly as well. It's a superwash and it just works so well. So when going home today, I actually asked Kai if he would like another one. And he kind of said, oh, well, he wouldn't mind another one in like a gray or, like a charcoal color. And his birthday is coming up. So I'm thinking about ordering the exact same yarn and just knitting him the exact same scarf. Because, quite frankly, Kai isn't super experimental. And if I use a different yarn or a different pattern, he will definitely be saying, well, I like my first one fine. And he will do that. Like, I once knit him a second hat because his first hat that he was wearing all the time was falling apart. But the second hat was never as soft or as nice or as perfectly fitted as his first one, in his opinion, so he just kept wearing the old one. So I just thought that was really, really sweet, and you might like to hear about that. And I will try to get the yarn for this scarf because his birthday is in 3. Oh my gosh, it's in 2 weeks. But he'll be going away for the weekend right before his birthday, so I should be able to bang his scarf out. I also want to knit him some socks. But worst comes to worst, there's always Christmas, so I will knit him the socks, which might be a little bit faster, and then I can just give him a scarf for Christmas. Or I could even do like a scarf and hat combination, because this yarn is so soft and I know that he likes it, so I will have to look into that. So yeah, that is the story of Kai's scarf, and it just shows this pattern took ages to knit. But it's really, really worth it when he loves it so much, and he wears this to work, and he doesn't wear a lot of knitwear to work, but this is This is actually really nice, and I'm actually quite proud of it. So yeah, that is that. I think it's the lighting that is throwing me off today. It is super bright outside, and the sort of weather where you see every dust bunny in your house and all the dirt in your windows because the sun is just shining in. And yeah, why am I talking about that? I don't know. Before I go into acquisitions, just very quick announcement that one thing that I've been wanting to do for a while and never really finding the right time for it, and now a couple of you have suggested it as well, is we definitely and desperately need to do a sweater knit along. Because I've been knitting sweaters all year, and now it's like almost winter, and I think generally the knitting world is kind of more obsessed than usual with sweaters, especially colorwork sweaters. So I'm thinking I definitely want to be doing a sweater knit along. Haven't really decided if I want to do like a colorwork sweater along or a knit like a Norwegian sweater along or just generally a garment cowl. I thought about doing a steek along where you knit a garment and then steek it. But I haven't really made up my mind, and I've been thinking about this for way too long now. So I just thought I'd throw the idea out there, and you guys maybe have some ideas what you'd like to do. Don't worry, we'll make it super easy and chill, so it'll either run for quite a long time, or we'll just do it in a way where you don't have to finish anything. So I want to have a really low-key sweater knit along, and I'm open to all ideas, so please let me know in the comments or over in the Ravelry group, and I would really appreciate your feedback. All right, next up, all that's left to talk about is acquisitions, of which I have 2 little balls of yarn. First of all, look at these balls. They're proper balls of yarn, right? They're 100-gram balls. And here in Germany, we have very small mailboxes that have like, the tiny opening where they can, just, it's meant to house, letters. And then most mailboxes, mine included, they have like spikes on the inside, so you can't obviously just pull the mail back out if you're not the owner. And what my postmen tend to do is they stuff everything through that hole. And sometimes it's really hard to get packages out again because then they're just stuck. And how they manage to fit this in a package through my mailbox, I have no idea. It's literally beyond me, but I just thought that was hilarious. So anyways, you may have heard of this company. It is Retrosaria, which I'm probably not pronouncing correctly, and the sun is coming in like I predicted. And this is a company from Portugal, and they are famous for their Mondim yarn range. So what they're doing is they produced a sock yarn, and then they're now also producing other yarns that are non-superwash. I think they're Portuguese. Yeah, they're all Portuguese wool, 100% Portuguese wool. And they've been around for a while. I think this yarn is getting quite popular, and I have been wanting to try it for a while. So I decided to give it a go. And it was actually really interesting because there are a couple of resellers here in Germany. And just out of interest, I went onto the Retrosaria website themselves in Portugal, and it turned out obviously the yarn was quite a bit cheaper, and shipping was also very, very affordable. So I decided to order this from Portugal, and I got the cheapest shipping option, and kind of thought, oh well, it'll be here in 4 weeks or whatever, I don't really care. It's not like I'm running out of yarn. And it arrived within, I would say, 3 or 4 days. So that was really impressive. So anyways, this is the yarn that I'm talking about. I got 2 skeins. Sunshine problems. I got this colorway, which is 207. And I also got this one, which I think is really fun. This one is 204. And I'm just really interested in knitting these up. To be honest, the yarn feels really interesting. I usually don't knit socks out of 100% wool. And also, this yarn is non-superwash, which I love non-superwash yarns, except when I got these, I realized, well, I always throw my yarn and my socks in the washing machine, even the ones that are not supposed to be thrown in the washing machine, because who hand washes their socks? I certainly don't. So that kind of throws a question of why did I get these yarns? To be honest, I think, the lighting. To be honest, I think this yarn would be great for sweaters. So I didn't only buy this with socks in mind, but I thought if I like it, this would be a really, really nice fingering weight sweater yarn. But yeah, I'm not quite sure if I'm going to knit socks out of them and hand wash them, or knit as much and just throw it in the washing machine, or just, why wouldn't it survive a cold wash? It should. Like, a cold wash cycle is essentially the same as hand washing it in my books. Or I might knit these into mittens or hats, or I don't know. I really like it and I just really want to try it out. The feel is really interesting. It is very soft. I think it's very soft. But it also, like the yarn, I think it may be like a 2-ply. It has a very different feel to it, which makes sense because it's a different preparation of the yarn. It says a lot of Portuguese things, and then it says Mondim is a non-superwash sock weight yarn made from fine Portuguese wool. So I just thought they would be very, very interesting to try, and you know how much I love my combination sock yarns. So I will let you know when I knit with these how I feel about them. And no, I'm not advertising for these. I just decided to try them and bought them myself. So that is it in terms of my acquisitions. Lately I'm obsessed with self-strapping yarns, so I'm kind of envious of you guys in the US because you just have so many self-strapping indie dyers. I know we have some here, and I asked a couple of people for suggestions over on Instagram, but I just feel like you have a lot more options in terms of self-strapping yarn in the US, and most of the dyers that I know here in the EU, their yarn is so popular that it's very hard to get a hold of sometimes. So that's why some companies I've never tried the yarn, because I just never catch an update. So I've kind of been thinking about that, but not really coming to a solution. But thanks to everyone who has made some recommendations. A couple of you asked to tell you about the recommendations on the podcast, and I'm very careful about these things because I don't like to talk about things that I haven't tried yet. And also, I don't want to be advertising, and rules here in Germany are quite strict about that anyways, so that's just the reason why. But I try to be generally very, very open about those sort of things, so when I get stuff sent for free, I will always tell you guys and so forth anyways. So yeah, not sure where I was going with that, but that was my little ramble about self-strapping sock yarn and sock yarn in general. And that is pretty much it for the podcast. I should probably tell you what I'm wearing today. I am once again wearing the Jolie sweater, which again you can find on my project pages on Ravelry. I knit the sweater on using Wollmeise yarn, Wollmeise Pure, which is their 100% wool, and it's really, really nice. I've been wearing the sweater quite a lot. It's my first time knitting a garment or wearing a garment out of Wollmeise yarn. And it's just very durable and very soft at the same time. And this is probably one of my dressiest sweaters that I've knit this year. So yeah, I'm very, very happy with it. I like the lace detail here. It's kind of hard to find things that go underneath, but it's just a really nice little sweater that doesn't look hand knit. And I like it. I like it a lot. I was actually thinking, because I knit a lot of sweaters this year, and I also wear them a lot because, like I said, I work a lot from home. I tend to basically live in my knitwear. So I was thinking about doing maybe like a sweater episode, or maybe like a couple even, just talking about some of the sweaters I knit this year and how they've held up in terms of the yarn, in terms of the sweater, how I've been wearing them, what I liked or didn't like about them. I'm assuming that might be interesting to you guys, but please do let me know if it is, because then I might prioritize that a little bit more. But yeah, I feel like I've learned a lot about sweaters this year just because I've knit so many. And my knitting skills have definitely improved with them. And I've also kind of learned what I like to wear and what I don't like to wear and so on. So it's been a really interesting knitting year for me so far. So yeah, let me know what you think about that. Besides that, in terms of life and what's been happening, not a whole lot, to be honest. Had my first week back at work after a holiday, which is always incredibly stressful, but I survived. Took a work trip, which again, stressful but also really fun. When I've not been working, I've been planning our wedding and knitting, and all that has been going relatively well. You can see with my choice of projects, I've kind of been working on very simple things, which sometimes just feels very nice. I've also been playing a lot of Red Dead Redemption 2 on the PlayStation because Kai plays and it's really fun. And that also significantly cuts into my knitting time, I must say, sadly. But yeah, that's what's been happening. So I will be back with you guys to chat about some more knitting and hopefully have some progress to show you next week. Until then, I hope you have a great week. Have a nice Sunday. Enjoy your knitting, and I will see you very soon. Thank you for watching. Bye.